I just know a lot of times it's I know we should, because I've always like.
Hey, easy there, buckwheat. I didn't say anything. I'm gonna look away again and go.
Right?
Yeah, right. Well, just
You know what, like, I wake up, you know what's on?
that's all I can do at this point.
Kind of family checks. So they've got 3 full.
I have no idea.
You did have
Gosh, Dad, there are certain things that we each do. We don't overlap.
Yeah.
Some of us more than others. My truck's got license sirens on it.
It's 7 o'clock right now. All right, 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please take roll?
Councilman Madsen?
Here.
Councilman Montoya?
Here.
Councilman Brits?
Here.
Councilman Race?
Here.
Mayor Graves?
Here. You have before you an agenda that has a couple of changes on it. Under D, petitions, memorials, proclamations, and public comment, item number 1. Platte County will be here with a request to waive permit fees. And then if you go down to new business item number 4, you can strike that and put it up as number 6 under unfinished business. Any other changes that need noted?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda with the changes made.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have in front of you the consent agenda items. For the purpose of discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve and place to record the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I did have a question, and it's pretty minor, but it has to do with these dogs that are being picked up and taking the dog pound and all that. It says like, okay, so 4 dogs are impounded at the pound. We see that every month. All dogs released to their owners. Do they get fines for this? They do?
Yes.
Okay, good. They should.
They pay for the food and overnight stay. I think a rate of $5 per night, and then they also, depending on circumstances, can receive citations for municipal court.
Okay, great. It just never mentioned that, so I was just kind of curious about that.
And then when you release them, do they get city dog tags and stuff like that as well going
Yes.
forward if they're not?
If they don't have tags, then they either come back and get some. If not, they'll get a citation. They have 7 days to get the dog tags. If within those 7 days they get them, the citation is dismissed. That way they don't have charges. And then if not, they're brought to municipal court the same way for those charges.
Thank you, Officer Gill.
Yeah, no problem.
I called you out so Bill knew who was talking.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Is there any other discussion on the consent agenda?
None here. And then
Bill, anything?
No, I'm gonna be pretty quiet, I think.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Petitions, memorials, proclamations, and public comments. Item number 1 is Platte County here to request a waive for permit fees. And Malcolm, perfect job. I was going to take this time to say, if you're going to publicly speak tonight for Bill, please come to the podium.
Mayor and council, thank you for adding us to the agenda. I would have asked to be on earlier, but had a meeting with contractor today. We're not even technically under contract just yet, but they're confident enough where we're at that they apparently pulled a permit, which I didn't know about until our meeting at 9 o'clock this morning, which I think 9:30 I called Candy begging, is there any way we can get on so I can at least ask you? And we're not gonna ask that you forgive the entire fee. I think you have it in front of you. It's $21,210. Obviously they're public funds, and so we try to use them as sparingly as possible. And so we would ask that you do something similar, if not identical, to what we did with the Agriplex, which was a $4,000 permit fee, and then bill for any of the inspector's time above that 4,000, but to be capped at 14,000. The cap's obviously important so that we can really set a final budget. But that would be our request, if you would be willing to waive some of that fee at least. Cap it at 14,000. The base would be 4, bill for any inspector time after $4,000 worth of billable hours, and cap it at 14. That'd be our request for you all.
was there a cap on the Agriplex?
It was
It
14,000.
was the same.
And it was pretty similar construction values, correct?
Yeah, they're almost identical. Ours, for the courthouse, it will grow. We've made the decision to do HVAC throughout the building. We're waiting on a final price for that, and then a subsequent permit will come. So, we're using the opportunity. We obviously moved out of the courthouse, so we're using the opportunity to do as much as possible. And just for public information, even with our lease considered into what we're paying, we will save $200,000. We'll have a net savings of about $200,000 just by moving out during construction. General contractor doesn't have to work weird hours. They don't have to work around us. And so, as odd as it sounds, by paying rent somewhere else and moving everybody out, we save it. The estimate's $200,000 total. So.
That was a big undertaking, so congratulations to you for getting that done.
It was, probably the most stressful thing we've ever had to do, but it'll be worth it. When the public gets back, we think they'll be very proud. The big decision we made was to do central HVAC throughout the building, which, if you've been through there, you see every office has an air conditioner head unit, which has tubes coming out of the building, which is not good for preservation of a historical building, really. Anytime you have water running down the side of it. We have old electric heaters in there that cost us an arm and a leg. I'm sure the town won't be very happy when we get a little bit more efficient in Wampa, but we sure will be, and we think the public will be as well.
I guess I'd make a motion in relation to the building permit fee for the courthouse, that we do it the same. Sorry, I always call it the 4-H building, but whatever you want to call it.
The old,
Our flat $4,000 fee, and then additional charges at $60 an hour, not to exceed $14,000.
I'll second that motion.
it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion will carry.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll get a check Tuesday. Commissioner meeting. Thank you.
Public comment. Merlin, you have anything for us tonight?
Sure. Okay, interest in data mining, still moving forward. I talked to Don Smith today from the REA, and 2 contracts have been signed by cooperatives in other towns. He feels that we're moving in the right direction. That means that these companies that have been fishing are starting to connect, and we're really hopeful we'll get something going in the energy park out there next to the power plant soon. I've had another inquiry from a major company that would like to locate here. That's a manufacturing. I'm not at liberty to discuss any more than that. I have an NDA. So, as far as the town of Wheatland and the health and wellness, I've started a physical inventory of every business property in the town. I've done all the east-west streets. I started on 7th Street on the north-south streets, and I'm on 10th, and I have 178 business properties so far. So that's it's really kind of eye-opening, really, when you sit down and you start going through them. I'm doing it off of Google, and then I'll have to take a day and drive around town and check addresses and check business names and things like that. But at first I thought it was kind of busy work, but I see the value in it. It's eye-opening. It really is.
Interesting.
I think that empty lots are not a liability, though. They're opportunities and they're assets. If you run out of empty buildings and empty lots, then you're full and you have no place for anything new to come to town. So we have to be careful if we call every empty building and every empty lot a liability. Some are, of course, obviously, if they're dilapidated and run down. They're a liability, buildings in particular, in the sense of fire and police protection. But if you don't have any empty buildings, you don't have anything to offer anybody to come to town. So
It's a different perspective. Appreciate that.
that's really all I have.
Thank you, Merlin.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment at this time?
I got one. If I could.
Well, sure.
I didn't know whether to do this during the agenda, but we received our monthly report from Chief Doug Willison. And in that report, he tells us that some officers responded to an attempted suicide this month. And they figured out who it was, and they found that the male in a bad way. And that was Sergeant Gill, Officer Ott, Officer Sipple. They started life-saving measures, and according to the fire personnel and medics, these officers saved this male's life. And they'll be receiving citations later on. And I just want to congratulate those guys for doing that. Job well done. Just wanted to recognize that.
It was a perfect place to say that, Tony.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Item number 1. You have before you an ambulance lease agreement, and I believe Mrs. Witt, right,
Yes.
is here to speak.
Hello, I'm Sarah Witt. I'm the interim CEO at Platte County Memorial Hospital. I've been here since July, and I have brought with me Mary Ann Keene. Mary Ann Keene is going to be the CEO moving forward at PCMH, but I'll be speaking to the ambulance contract and the questions that you guys have this evening. So I received an email with regards to a couple of questions about that ambulance contract. Do you have those, or do you want me to speak to the questions that were provided to me?
I included the questions that I had emailed with your packet.
So I'll just start and then you guys can find them. So the first one was in regards to changing the language from a 90-day notice to a 180-day notice for termination of the agreement. So we believe that the longer the terms are in the cancellation of that contract, the better. 90 days is a extremely rapid turnaround if we were to change hands of Banner operating the ambulance to someone else. And so we believe the 180 days is a better, more reasonable time frame, especially to be able to organize a different service situation or whatever that might be for providing ambulance services to the county residents. That 90 days would be an extremely quick turnaround if there were a termination of the contract. Any questions or comments on that?
Unless council does.
Yeah.
The length is your determination. I think the only problem I have, automatic renewal for another 5 years. It's not a very good policy for towns to have automatic renewals because you have different board members.
Just
Council
like
seats.
talked about in the workshop.
Yeah.
I would agree with the automatic renewal as well. I think that as we enter into another contract, I mean, we'll be honest, the ambulance service is not making money for Banner. We are losing considerably more money this year than we lost last year on providing this service. So we'd be fine with a non-automatic renewal of the contract and reviewing those terms every time that contract comes up.
So what would be an agreeable, like an annual lease agreement evaluation?
I think it's fine to have the initial term for 5 years. This particular agreement says it automatically, remember, the term here is, we're just leasing ambulances.
Right.
We're not providing anything, and so it's just a 5-year term, and then.
For Banner to lease the ambulance.
Yeah, for the ambulance lease.
We could strike the second sentence in item 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The second item is in number 4, transferring ownership of the ambulance to Banner. Upon termination of the contract, that is, we're fine with taking that out of there. I'm not exactly sure why that is there. And that's on page 2, number 4. I think that,
Striking all of 4?
Correct.
yes, it would be striking 4. I think the intention behind that is if the county chooses to not continue this agreement with us, and we were to continue to provide services to the county without ambulances, we do currently have 2 ambulances that are banner owned as well, that we operate in Platte County. But we would be in a situation that we would likely not be able to continue offering the service if we weren't able to lease the rigs. So, transferring ownership is really not the best option for that if we're all under the understanding that without rigs, it's difficult to provide the service. So we'll just strike number 4. And then the third one is in number 5, and it says, number 5C was removed from the original agreement. Banner will not use the above ambulance to transport patients to other facilities except when the situation demands immediate transport. So I think there's been some conversation or some question around Banner using the ambulances to transport patients between facilities and or even transporting patients in Torrington or to Torrington or out of Torrington to Casper. And really, to the intent of this contract, it is to lease the ambulances for us to provide this service to Platte County. With that, being able to operationalize what that looks like for us may include some transport of people outside of our county. Transports are lucrative. They're more lucrative. As I said, we are losing a significant amount of money on offering this service. But in offering transports, they are one area where we are able to recoup some dollars at a higher rate than we are at a normal reimbursement rate for an ambulance run. So that was why that was taken out of there, because we would like to reserve the right to use the ambulances for that if the need should arise. I think given the situation of the pandemic currently, what we're seeing is finding transport for critical patients is extremely difficult. And so with that has come the need for more transports than usual. However, when I look at the amount of transports that have happened outside of town that would not be for someone in this county, they are extremely low. But that is why that language was taken out of the contract.
You provide ambulance service in Torrington?
No, we do not. The county provides it.
I think the concern that I have or was brought up is the two banner-owned ambulances. I guess you could, whatever you do with those, but it's when the townspeople buy the ambulances that we're leasing. I think I have a concern when they're used in Torrington.
Yep.
And if Torrington has an ambulance service, and I think whether it was dispatch, we know they were town ambulances, Wheatland town ambulances, why they were taken out of service for the people that bought. And I guess I would think that would be Torrington could provide that ambulance service. Or I think one was from Torrington to Greeley, one was Torrington to Casper. I don't know the situation or would need to know the situation, but I think that's the concern, is at least the town's ambulances need to stay providing the service for the people of Wheatland that bought those ambulances. That's my concern about that, because I think when you do transfers, does that put you shorthanded?
So we provide 2 ambulances in Platte County, and so we have 2 ambulances in the county, all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So unless we do a transfer out of town, we have 2 ambulances available, one in Guernsey and one in Wheatland. So in Torrington, they have 1 county-run ambulance, and so if they have a transport needed from a Banner facility somewhere else, we have opted. What's happening right now is facilities are looking for transport. They do not have enough ambulances, and I'm sure everybody in the room is aware of the ambulance situation in Wyoming. The ambulance situation is dire, to be quite honest. And so when we have patients who need transport, facilities are calling and waiting on transport for 5, 6, and 7 hours to be able to transport a patient to a higher level of care. And what that does is it makes that patient who needs a higher level of care stay in that facility where they're not able to get the level of care that they need, quite honestly. And so when we're in that situation, and being in a county where we do have 2 rigs, we have made the operational decision to go and make those transports to help those facilities get the patients the care that they need.
So you said 2 in the county, but do you have 4? 2 Banner owned and then the 2 from the town?
We have 2 from Guernsey, 2 from Wheatland, and 2 from Banner. And we have the 2, so in the contract, a couple of things that I would like to talk about when we're talking about this contract is that in this contract, the way that it was written, Banner provides all maintenance on these ambulances. And so I have some information that I brought with you in regards to the 2 ambulances that we leased from the city of Wheatland. If you want to take one of those and pass it down. So the 2 rigs that we leased from the city of Wheatland, one is 7 years old, and we spent $26,889 as of last month in maintenance this year on that rig. And the second ambulance is 15 years old, and we spent almost $80,000 on that rig, keeping it running in the first 9 months of this year. So when we're speaking about the ambulance situation and the ambulances that we lease from the city, we have reached the life expectancy, quite honestly, of the rigs that we have from the city. So we're in a situation where we're spending, I mean, in one case, almost $80,000 for the first 9 months of the year to keep that rig in service. And so when that rig goes out of service, that's why we have multiple ambulances, because the fleet that we have is very aged. And we spend a lot of money. We've spent over $200,000 in the first 9 months keeping the fleet that we have going, 100 of which is on the ambulances that the city of Wheatland owns.
I have an idea.
Well, I guess in light of that also, I guess I'm still of the mindset the town's ambulances should stay in Wheatland, or if it is a transfer from the Wheatland Hospital. It's understandable that any additional transfers from, case in point, Torrington, it's just additional wear and tear on, I guess, our ambulances that are really got extra miles on them. They need to stay servicing the town of Wheatland, the folks that bought the ambulances. You have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought you raised your hand.
I got a question.
And payment terms is $1 per year for the ambulances.
Councilman, I got a question. Why can we not just have Pike County, but get maybe 3 counties together and get 3 helicopters instead of using the darn ambulance to travel over 100
I
miles?
can't hear who's talking. If they're gonna talk, they need to be at the podium.
What I'm saying is, why don't we get 3, 4 counties together and go after, and for long hauls, like the Torrington, the Casper, the Cheyenne, the Greeley, whatever else, get 3 helicopters. Instead of going for long hauls with our ambulances, we have helicopters to do it. And we have not just 1 county, but 3, 4 counties leasing 3 helicopters that would help us out a lot more, and we wouldn't have all these expense of all these miles on ambulances. You still can have some expense of helicopters, but they would get them a lot faster, they would get them safer, and they get the attention they need.
instead of a long, long haul all the way up to Casper.
That's kind of outside of the scope of what we're talking about.
Yeah, but that would solve the solution. If you guys get, like in Albany County, freaking, or Goshen County, Niobrara, Carbon County, even Laramie, get them all together. You could actually combine 3 counties and you go after more than you have with one.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. We're gonna stay at television in on this.
Yeah, I know. You want to go small time. I'm waiting for something.
I think that I do respect your opinion on keeping the ambulances in the county. However, with this being a lease the ambulances and Banner to operate the service for the county, I do believe that, we see a benefit to being able to use those ambulances we had a transport today from a patient, from the hospital that was gonna need to go to Torrington and then potentially need to go somewhere else. And so I think that in operations of the ambulance service is reserving the right to make those decisions. They don't happen very often, but they do happen. And so I think if we put in there that we are no longer able to do that, we're kind of treading into an operations contract into what we're able to do. And we're leasing the ambulances to provide EMS services, to provide the ability to provide EMS services in this county as well as in this area. And Banner operates in multiple locations within this state. I think as we look at the maintenance costs on the ambulances, we did have additional language in the contract originally about refreshes for the ambulance. And that was taken out. And I think as we look at an automatic renewal of every 5 years, I wouldn't want to write that into the contract. Because on this ambulance that cost us $80,000 this year, there's gonna come a time where we're not interested in leasing that ambulance anymore. I mean, to be quite honest. And so we're at a situation where if we don't have ambulances that are in good working condition, it doesn't work out in Banner's interest to lease these ambulances even for $1 and then spend that amount of money annually to keep them in working order.
How do you decide which ambulance you're gonna take on a run?
So, just which ones are in operation and not in the shop, to be quite frankly. And RJ is our ambulance EMS chief here in Platte County, and so he could probably speak better to that than I can. You'll have to come up here.
Yeah.
So what Sarah said is very true. Right now with our 6 ambulances we have, that the newest 2 are 2015s, which is at the useful life of what ambulance industry standards is. That it's pretty much which one's in the shop. I pretty much have a constant rotation of that with 1 to 2 ambulances into the shop and back out. And last year alone we spent over $300,000. I could have bought a new ambulance, fully loaded with all the equipment in it, for what I spent on maintenance. For that $80,000, that's half of what a re-chassis on an ambulance is. So that's where it is, and that's basically our decision is, we try to make sure we have a 4-wheel drive rig, which only 3 of the rigs are 4-wheel drive. None of them in the town knows is 4-wheel drive. So try to make sure we have a 4-wheel drive in service and make sure we have another ambulance in service, and then hope that we have gotten down to the point where a couple times in the last year that we didn't even think we'd have 1 ambulance that was actually mechanically in service between the 6 ambulances we have.
Thank you.
So then anytime you do a transfer, does it limit the service?
As far as limiting the
Shortage
services
of ambulances then?
it puts us down to 1 ambulance in the county versus 2, and we do move one of the ambulances to a more central location in the county to be able to cover the whole county better. But with that, like she said, the transfers is where, we are able to recoup those monies because I'll get almost 100% more reimbursement on a transfer than we do on a 911 call. So the 911 calls don't hardly even pay for enough for the staff to run the call, where transfers pay for the service to have what money we do have coming in.
So then when we do a transfer around here, we're more or less have an ambulance sitting at Dwyer to cover the county.
Usually,
I think as we look at this, we want to continue to provide this service in Platte County without question. How that's going to look in the future, I think we need to decide what that looks like. What our current situation looks like today is not sustainable over the long term. The cost, it increased significantly, especially when it comes to maintenance of the rigs. The reimbursement has actually gone down this year, so we billed higher, we got reimbursed for less than we did last year. The charity and bad debt write-off was higher this year than it was last year. So the costs are increasing year over year and becoming increasingly burdensome, to be quite frank. And so I think as we look at providing the service and the luxury of having 2 rigs in this county, we're gonna have to look at long-term how we operate this service to provide the best coverage to the county, but at a rate that's sustainable.
So the shortage, I'm just, sorry, I'm trying. So you say that 2 in Guernsey, 2 banner owned, and 2 owned. But when you run a transfer, you only have 1 in service. So is it manpower?
Oh, of course.
That's
We
what
have
it-
two. We have 2 rigs staffed. Yeah. So if 1 rig leaves town or is on a call, we have 1 other rig available. We do a lot of standbys, and so at sporting events and whatnot, most of those events, if we are what we call non-dedicated, because those are at no charge. If we run a dedicated standby, we have to pay an entire crew overtime to sit in an event. And so all of those factors go into whether we have a dedicated or undedicated standby. If we happen to have a rig on another call, then that puts us down to 1 crew. Well, we have 6 ambulances, we staff 2 at any one given time.
So then you can see my concern if you take 2 EMTs in one of the vehicles, and if it happens to be the town one on a Torrington transfer, Platte County, let alone the town, we have an ambulance sitting out at Dwyer, which I'm sure you guys don't like doing that either. So you can see what my concern is about having one of the town's ambulances doing a transfer. Heaven forbid if there was a tornado or a catastrophe, I understand get ambulances everywhere, but it seems like when it's coming around to being more of a business decision, and I guess if I'm having to make a business decision and I'm a steward of the town's money and I took their money and bought these ambulances, you can see where my concern is, where they're being used in
So the
Torrington.
reason that Torrington is needing transfers is because they have 1 rig and they cannot leave the county for any reason. And so that's the luxury of having 2. I think with that said, staffing 2 ambulances full-time, the significant portion of our budget is staffing. Over $1 million goes into salaries to staff 2 ambulances full-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I think that as we look at the sustainability of how we operate EMS within Wheatland, I think that we're gonna have to have some creative solutions as to what that looks like.
Councilman Madison, may I approach?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I appreciate the stewardship of the town money. I think that's important. Coming from running the Western Region Ambulance Service, I'm the director of EMS for Colorado, Wyoming. I oversee Fallon as well. So I see a large number of these ambulance services, and we are technically a nonprofit private ambulance service. So a lot of the funding comes from the hospital. Every one of those ambulance services at some point loses money because of equipment and things like that. So what I deal with it a lot is depreciation of equipment. And so when I look at the equipment that was provided by the city, our equipment is depreciated over 6 years old. So when we look at an ambulance cost, it costs $193,000 for a re-chassis or $250,000 for a brand new ambulance. The depreciation over the 6 years is there, right? And so we've leased these ambulances for $1 and on good faith. We provided service without a contract for some time now. And what we're doing is now just putting more money in on maintenance, right? So we're paying twice over what the ambulances were cost, right? So what we're looking at is having a lease for the ambulance so we can provide service still. And that's all we're really looking for, right? And to have full operating capability on those ambulances with providing that maintenance as well. So we're not coming to the city for maintenance. We're not coming to the city to provide or ask them to provide us new ambulances. So that's where we look at the city. I think the city did provide us ambulances at one point. The depreciation of them, there's really no other monetary loss to the city with these ambulances.
Yes, but the townspeople, I'd much rather have the ambulance on Mariposa than at Dwyer if I used my taxpayer dollars for it than going from Torrington to Greeley. So you can see where I'm coming from.
I appreciate that too, and it's real similar to how you operate fire and police, right? They're your tax base, right? So you pay them and to be in your city, right? We don't operate under a tax base. We operated under a one-time subsidy basically, and then we returned to lease. And so it's real similar in that sense, except for we've already into that tax subsidy. Right, and so now we're asking to re-up that lease, and that's what we're asking. We're not asking for another tax subsidy. Any questions? Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
Well, it just, so let's just say devil's advocate, we buy a new ambulance, $300,000, $350,000 for the town of Wheatland. You guys rent it for $1 or lease it for $1. Would you be taking that ambulance because it's the newest ambulance to Torrington to take somebody to Greeley all the time?
No, and I think that when that comes up, that constitutes a separate contract at that point, right? I said, we've been out of a contract for some time with you guys, and in good faith, we've been operating the service line. If you guys subsidize us somehow additionally to what you have, that constitutes a different type of contract, similar to the original contract we had. And I think that's why we pulled out the whole original statement of we're not going to take these ambulances outside the city, because we need to be able to operate this ambulance, and we have no subsidy from the city nor the county to be able to operate these ambulances. So if you did purchase an ambulance for us, that changes the game a little bit.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Doug, is there any red flags in this agreement?
The red flag we discussed and Banner Health has discussed, now it's just you guys to determine if you want with the areas that they said they were willing to strike, if you're willing to proceed accordingly. I think the only other paragraph that I didn't like is the acceptance of the ambulances. They've already seen them. Paragraph 6, I don't even know why that would be in this.
True.
I think it was just a continuous.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Do we need to take action on this tonight? Do we need action?
It's been 2 years,
Yeah,
Councilman.
it's the will of the council, Bill, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'd like resolution and to see us take action if you so desire, make a motion.
I'll move that we accept the latest lease agreement with the edit, the strike in paragraph 2 and the striking of paragraph 4.
What about paragraph 6, Councilman Jets?
You can keep it or leave it, I don't think it matters, does it?
Well, they have the right to inspect. I mean, that's already been done. They're just getting the ambulances they have.
I understand. So strike, amend my motion to include strike in paragraph 6.
Just a portion of 2, Candy.
Just the second paragraph,
Yeah,
second
second
sentence.
I'll second that motion.
I got one question. So when we struck the paragraph, or when we struck the line that said this term of agreement will automatically renew every 5th year, the terms will still be 5 years and will renew upon re-agreement, right?
Yep. I think that is the intent, yes.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
Just outside of my concerns with the town's ambulance just being used outside the county.
Thank you for your time.
So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We got a draft to us, because you guys did this.
So that's a 2-2.
2.
So who were the 2 no's?
Yeah.
Madsen and Montoya. So it's up to me, and at this point, speaking maybe somewhat out of frustration with my inability to connect with previous administration, Resch, I guess I would like to see some more time and due diligence done on this agreement. So at this time, I'm gonna say no, and would like to schedule a workshop so we can maybe discuss some more details and get it right
That'd be great.
instead of trying to just push it through.
Agreed.
Not against the agreement, but I think maybe a little more time and due diligence is warranted.
We
If
appreciate that.
you are agreeable with that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being more approachable and returning emails and phone calls, because previous admin was not good at that.
You're welcome.
And the crying shame of that is his son and my son were in the same grade, and I seen him all the time.
So motion failed.
Motion failed.
Now we go back on.
Yeah, and I think we go back online with Ingberg Miller. Is he still there, Candy? Do we know how to dual screen this?
We need to move to the side, Bill. We need part of that screen.
What do you want me to do?
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Alright, I'm Daniel Hayes with Inberg Miller Engineers. So, available if you have any questions or comments, I can answer them for you.
Bill, are you still with us as well?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
I probably caused this. They had a couple of things I didn't like, if you recall. And if you look at their agreement, paragraph 12, they struck very structured. They're really just designing or going over the plan. They're not gonna do any actual physical work, so they won't be digging or anything like that. And then on paragraph 20, dispute resolution, they took out the last sentences for arbitration that I requested. And then paragraph 26, joint and several liability, they took out. A couple of things, and I was satisfied with it. There's, in this particular contract, since they're just going through and taking care of a master plan that we need. And, I think their liability and their insurance carrier wanted it limited at least to the amount of their fee, which is $74,500. And with all that understanding, I didn't have a real issue with that. I mean, obviously, I might have an issue later on if they actually were doing the construction or doing that design, and I have a different issue. But this is just for a master plan of the pathway. So I'm probably okay with the current, what they've done in this particular revision. And it's my understanding the state of Wyoming was okay with it too.
That need to be approved in there.
Yeah, we would,
You need to approve it with the necessary, the changes, and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Move that we accept the change, the estimate and the updated contract with Inbert Miller Engineers.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion will carry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Moving on to ordinance 832, which is annexation of Paragon Park Edition. It's the third and final reading.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 832 for Paragon Park on the third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion will carry. Moving on to ordinance 833, which is the town code for discharge and possession of firearms, also on third reading. Before we get started, there's going to be some ground rules tonight. If you speak, you will come to the podium. If you speak out of turn, you will be asked to be quiet once. The second time, you will be asked to leave. You must address from the podium, and you must address the chair. We're not going to have blurt outs. We're not going to have unruly people. This is friendly. I think we're close to where we need to be. We still enjoy your input, but let's do it the right way. And it also benefits Councilman Britz, and that's why the podium's closer. Not because we're trying to intimidate you, but because it works dynamically with technology. So, with that, I would, for the purpose of discussion, entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 833 with the revisions that we have made.
I'll second.
All right, now do we have further discussion? Does the group have access to the clean copy?
I just gave them the marked up copy so they can see what changes have been made.
And that's what I'm gonna say, some people's got that one, that ain't the same one that Bill gave me.
Only the council has that one.
Yeah, this is, they're the same, but our draft is, or a draft is shown without the markup on it, but they're the same, it's just one of them's clean without the red striking through it.
Right, because the one Bill gave me was a lot different than that one.
What did Bill give him? I don't know what.
Bill, you remember what you gave me, the little short version that you wrote up?
Yes, I forwarded it to the council with little or no feedback from them. So they've had it for at least 2-3 weeks. And I think Don Race is the only one that really commented on it, and responded to it after I pointed out that he read the wrong one. But what I propose is that we just strike everything that we have in, that we approved on reading number 2 and replace it with the write-up that I suggested. And part of the reason is because when we did approve the second reading and we said we were going to just repeal 905-100, we lost the definition of a firearm. So we've got to get a definition of a firearm back up into 905-90. So I wrote up a shorter, and then there's been a lot of confusion about animal control and other issues that are just ambiguous and difficult to, it's confusing. And so I offered you guys a more succinct and clear version. We can, basically wholesale replace 905-90 with what I proposed. And it covers all of our issues that we've discussed in version 1 and version 2. It eliminates ambiguity. It's just, in my opinion, it's cleaner. And like I said, you guys have had it for at least 2 weeks. In fact, we got another copy of it the other day because I responded to Chloe and included it, right, as an attachment.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Graves and Councilman. I would like to speak in favor of the version that Councilman Britz submitted, for several reasons. Not only is it cleaned up a great deal so that you avoid all the mishmash of this officer and that officer and very specifics about, animals and excuse me, etc. It also improves it a great deal by including the ability to use them in the case of reasonable and justifiable defense of personal security, personal liberty, and or personal property, which I find very constitutional and very important. It also eliminates the details of who grants permits and amounts of insurance and all those kinds of things, which are totally unnecessary. And really, permits and insurance, all those do is complicate matters to allow a basic right. I think there were complications anyway about who writes the permit, et cetera, because I think it was designated to a particular organ of the government to do that, and if they didn't have provision to do that. But anyway, so it's not less complications, and it's more constitutional, much more simplified, therefore you don't get into legalities that become loopholes and issues in court, etc. It keeps it simple to a definition of what are you talking about as far as firearms and rounds. It specifies that blank rounds can be used in military honors, entertainment and pub that covers sports events, all of that, not restricted, that's very good. And cleans up the other one a great deal. So I'm hoping that you will consider it as a preferable version. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
If you consider it, in the definition of, in number 1 on Mr. Britz's firearms are defined in a simpler way would be W period, S period, section, and this is important, it's section 6-8-403A triple I. Just so it's cleaned up, so if that's what you select, that's the actual statutory scheme. And so.
Yep, you're right.
So it's 6.8-403.
6-8-403, print the A, print the triple I.
With WS.
Yeah. And that just means Wyoming statute section.
Go ahead.
Thank you, gentlemen. I too am in favor of Councilman Britt's amendment to this for the main fact that if I'm not able to defend my property, if I have to ask you for permission, it's no longer a right, it's now a privilege. And I want to reserve the right to protect my property as well as myself. Because my property can be classified as pets. My property can be classified as my children. By law, they are my property. So if I'm only defending myself, as definition me, myself, then I'm unable to do what I have a right to. Thank you.
I've only known about this one. Would it be okay to get the revision first, to have time on that? If there's nothing wrong with the 905-100, maybe we can proceed on that, but as far as 090, if we can get that revision and then make another decision later.
If you do that, that means you have to table it tonight.
Yes, and then it's gotta be brought off the table.
It has to be brought off the table. And,
I haven't had a chance to see it. I don't know how many people have.
You got it right there. It's right there, there's a copy of it right there. I didn't bring mine, hell, I ought to go home and go get it.
I haven't seen it either.
Oh, yeah, it was the old one.
Hey, honestly, no, I like what you described.
right, but then I don't either, somebody has to be there, bring it off the table. The same person doesn't bring it off the table. And that wouldn't happen.
Well, and I look back through the dialogue on Tuesday, and you and Tony responded with the same questions that I would have had. So I feel like she wrote down that she can. In his last version, it's cleaner. Who knows what the sport is? I was like, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Bill's last version?
Yeah, actually,
Pass them
I
around.
did. I looked at it. I talked to Candy about it.
That last version that he suggested, if we clean up with what legal counsel advised us on how to clean that up.
Yeah.
I honestly think we just go that route.
Sounds good.
Anybody else want to?
So I just recently saw the version the bill had, and I'd like to commend the town. I think it's come a long way from what we saw.
It's a work in progress.
3 months ago. I do have a small concern about the use of blanks. I get the military honors, but I can't tell you whether a blank's been fired or a live round's been fired.
Does everybody get one of these ones?
we got someone at the podium talking, we got secondhand conversations going on. Can we give Mr. Kukowski his time, please, and anybody that's online watching?
And I don't know if Officer Gill could tell you the difference if he's more than a block away, if a blank was fired or a live round was fired. So I like the direction this is going. I do have some concerns about that. I still think we can protect our freedom and be reasonable at the same time. I'm not necessarily in favor of the unlimited blanks situation. I think that's maybe a stretch that's a little far. Thank you.
Thank you.
As being with VFW, the blank rounds are real easy to tell. They're all cranked on the end, and that is what we use in the military rounds.
I'm aware of what they look like with the sound.
The sound is there.
Right.
All right, since you're the uniformed officer here, give us your opinion on the use or blank rounds not being restricted.
Oh, ready, podium?
Yeah, podium. Podium. Speak loud, please.
So I heard my name earlier, I guess I was in conversation with Chief Willis. What was the question towards me, I guess, I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and let Mr. Kukowski say what he's concerned.
If you're more than a block away, can you discern whether a blank has been fired or a live round has been fired based on the sound?
I would assume not.
Okay.
At that point in time, I don't think there's a huge difference in the report they make.
Caliber to caliber.
Yeah, your secondary sound, whether it would be ammunition or a bullet striking an object or anything of that nature, you'd have the difference if it was a far enough distance. But just the report of the rifle would, in my opinion, make a difference in the sound, whether it's a blank or a live ammo.
I would agree.
One thing under consideration, I don't know if you've read this.
I have not.
It says blank rounds as used in military honors, entertainment, and public demonstrations, and in the dispersal of nuisance animals would not be restricted. What is your opinion on that?
This would be more my opinion, I think, than the PD's, because I've never discussed anything like this with Chief Wilson. I'd be questioning what the are not restricted, restricted to own, restricted to use. How many can you use? Is that the kind of restriction, or not restricted as in you can't possess them kind of deal? I know a lot of places use blanks to get rid of certain birds around businesses and stuff like that. Obviously, for military honors, for PD wise, as far as I would be concerned, I don't think that would be an issue. Entertainment, public demonstrations, as long as that's all checked off through the town, if it's like a public demonstration, it's not. Obviously, I think there probably need to be some kind of a heads up, but restricted wise, I don't know why there's anything to be restricted.
Movie sets.
Movie sets. We have lots of those here.
As long as I have someone checking the ammunition. Need an arm.
Well, if I hand you a gun, you can't well check it.
Does that answer it, or is there more? That would just be the thing I would look at, is just defining what restricted would be, or what's not restricted.
A little bit of your concerns about
Unrestricted discharge in city limits, meaning I could fire off as many blanks as I have, unrestricted.
That would be my interpretation as
That was
well.
my interpretation as well.
Yeah, the way it's just labeled at the end or not restricted, yeah, would, in my opinion, would mean there's nothing we could do about someone shooting blanks for at least those 3 reasons or 4 reasons there.
You're having a thought, Doug.
I'm like Officer Gill. At some point, if there's no restriction, you can sit and shoot off 1,000 rounds of blanks if you got the money and the time. And there's no restriction on time. I mean, we have the ability to maybe take care of it, but they could shoot off 1,000 rounds, and then we'd have to work on a nuisance problem. But I'm just telling you, that would concern me if you had no restrictions. I don't, for somebody that has to take these cases, if somebody gets cited, I don't have a problem with the blank rounds as used in military honors.
Mr. Wilcox pointed out, if you were to knock off the are not restricted part.
Put a period right after
That's
that.
exactly where I was just gonna go.
Yeah.
It's used for military honors, entertainment, public demonstrations, and dispersal of nuisance animals.
Period. Yep, that's what I put here.
That was in the.
I don't think you can strike that because then the sentence doesn't make any sense.
Sure does. Yeah, it does.
Mm,
Blank rounds,
Blank
as
rounds.
used in military honors, entertainment, and public demonstrations, and the dispersal of nuisance animals.
If it's just a definition, I don't think you'd have to go into that depth. You just put a blank round as a definition of a crimped round that does not fire a projectile. Because really, this doesn't necessarily open up what you're using them for. It's just defining what it is. Correct? Those are just examples that it's used in military honors, entertainment, and dispersal. It's not granting the permission for that. That's just an example of what those rounds are and what they're used for. You could just put the definition of blank round as a crimped-ended round that fires no projectile.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
A blank round still fires a projectile. There's a wad in there. There's something that comes out of that projectile. Period.
Okay.
I mean, you can take a 12 gauge and cut the end of it off, dump all the BBs off. That wad's still gonna come out of there.
Okay. Change the definition of crimp round that fires a less lethal. I mean, you can, just a definition, you're cutting hairs at this point.
Yeah.
That's what it is, but it's blank.
Yes.
Start defining blank, or
Could I interject? And I think if it becomes an issue, you have to remember the town council can always change this ordinance. This isn't something that's set in stone forever. If it, let's say Officer Gill and the police department say, this is just becoming a disaster. We have everybody firing blank rounds in town. Then you can come and look at it. It makes sense to me when you put a period after nuisance animals. And I think the ordinance by itself says, one, you can't discharge a live round. That defines what you cannot do. Blank rounds, and then blank rounds are used in military honors and things like that.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm fine with the period behind the
Yeah.
arrows that you got at.
Good stuff.
thank you for your.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Blank round, number one,
Blank round.
any round, I don't care whether it's live or blank, is very difficult to come by right now. And probably for the foreseeable future. So people aren't gonna be, number one, just shooting off blank, because you can't get them. Okay, but somebody shooting off a gun in town, their neighbors are going to panic. Their neighbors could, call in 911 and a SWAT team shows up. So if somebody is going to fire blank rounds, and my mother and father-in-law have buzzards just across the ditch from them, and they would dearly love to get rid of them birds. You know, so I can see the use to be able to shoot blank rounds. But there should be some sort of notification if you're going to do that. It's like fire. You know, out in the county, they're supposed to call the sheriff's department and let them know, hey, I'm burning today. Just so that the fire department doesn't get called out on a dumb run.
And you could put that in there too.
Yeah, I mean, just notify the city or dispatch that I'm going to be shooting blanks, you know, at such and such a location. And then when Matilda calls in, they're coming after me. No, it's okay. I already know what's going on. But if there's no notification, yeah, I can see a huge problem.
That's a good point.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that.
Last meeting, we were told when we can come pick one of these up, and I got the first one. I think I did my due diligence. I didn't know about these other two. I like the changes, but even so far, there's been contention on some of the details between all three. And if you guys have your time, I think it would be fair that we all had our time. Yeah, in the first two meetings, it was mentioned we can do it till we get it right. He just mentioned we could always go at this again. We're already going at it. I don't see a reason why we can't go one more for the rest of us. Have one more discussion right now. Work out the best we can, but agree on this the next meeting till we get it right.
I like the idea about having notified dispatch for you shoot blank.
Yeah, I was trying to see the language in line 3, about how we notify. I'm just trying to know in the other, on the red one.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to find some of the language that we had about, and it's not necessarily a special use permit, but some sort of notification.
Morgan.
Brandon, as far as the bike rounds, when we're doing the military honors, I mean, we're all in uniform. Sure, we do them in front of churches at people's request. We do them at the cemetery. We do them in front of the VFW. But everybody there is in uniform or black vests and stuff like that. So as far as being able to call in that we're gonna do it, possibly, some of them we have very short notice on, when we're supposed to perform. We might have, somebody, they might call tonight and want it tomorrow. So that's all I've got on the blanks on that.
Hey, Bill, what would a verbiage change look like that might address those concerns on item number 3 in your last revision?
Blank rounds for the purposes of military honors, blah, 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 are not restricted. Instead of as used, put blank rounds for the purpose of.
And then put are not restricted back on the end of that sentence?
Do what?
And then put are not restricted on the back of that sentence again?
Yes. Yes. I think the point, I guess my point or thought was you don't want to have the VFW coming into the town hall every time they have a funeral, you know.
No, but the point was made that if you're gonna get rid of some birds or something, you should notify somebody. So grandma doesn't have a heart attack or, you know.
Yeah.
I like that idea, I really do.
Guys, I agree with what the gentleman says. I think that if you're gonna shoot blank rounds at birds to scare off your predators or whatever you're gonna do, then I think you ought to at least call the police station, call someone, let them know what you're doing, because that way he's not getting 500 phone calls in 20 minutes. You're gonna have to do that. And I think everybody ought to be able to agree to that. I think that's advisable, because you get somebody shooting off over here, somebody shooting off over here, you're gonna get somebody panicking over something.
I suppose we could take item 3 out of there and we could address it in a separate ordinance.
That's another 3 readings. I think we're close.
Here's what I suggest is blank rounds as for the purpose of military honors, entertainment, public demonstrations, and in the dispersal of nuisance animals are not restricted. But I think you could add the town must be notified by the individual shooting the blank rounds when he intends to shoot.
Pre-notification, sure.
I mean, and all they do is either call the town or call dispatch and say, I'm gonna shoot blank rounds at 1555 Water Street or whatever.
Because of the
Yes,
birds.
I agree with that.
I have no objection to military honors. I have great respect for what they do, so it wasn't taken that way. I have no issue with the military honors piece. It's all the rest of it that, when we think about the calls we get at the 4th of July for fireworks used outside of season, and I'm thinking this is, have the military honors, the rest of the blanks just call in and let people know. That's my thought.
One other idea I think we probably need to throw in with military honors are sporting events, because I know track, they're shooting blanks for track, and they'll be doing that every weekend if there's a home track meet. So maybe high school sporting events or school sporting events and military honors on the non-call-in list would be my only thought.
Entertainment, public demonstrations. Yeah, we just need to make sure. We just need.
So what if you did the blank rounds for the purpose of military honors and or sporting events? All other discharges of blank rounds require notification, dispatch, or whatever.
Or entertainment, public demonstrations.
Yeah, because even
all other.
The entertainment and public demonstration thing's gonna have to have probably some sort of an event permitting process as well anyway, so that would be declared then. So then you're down to the nuisance animals, and I think out of respect for your neighbors, yeah, that check call makes sense.
I just want to speak to the entertainment aspect of it. 21 years as a high school theater director. I directed Mice and Men, Children's Hour, West Side Story. We used a track starter pistol in every one of those shows. That's why entertainment is listed on there. Sure.
And it still could be, it would just be.
I notified in the program.
Yeah.
A firearm will be used. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't be any problem to notify the city. In fact, I imagine, I know for Mice and Men, the police department had to clear every firearm that I used on stage to make sure it was inoperable. Sure. Yeah, so.
I want to commend everybody that's here tonight and all of you guys
Because what you've done, you're not going against our Second Amendment rights. You haven't restricted, like here, it's so clear. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You're not restricting our rights to keep and bear arms. And originally, with the way all that started, that's the way it was. But now it's come to the point you're actually standing behind that Second Amendment that we took oath to defend. And you're working out these things about like noise suppression and everything else. And those are good and things. People should notify if they're gonna be making loud noise and doing stuff. And so I commend everybody that we're finally come together as a community and doing what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's another suggestion. Right after you say, are not restricted, if that's what you want to do, you could put period. Blank rounds cannot be fired until the town is notified of when and where they are going to be used. That's not a hard concept. If it's a play, they can call in and say, we're going to have a play today. If it's a military honors, there's going to be a lot of leeway in there, but they could call 911 and say, yeah, we're going to shoot. We're going to have military honors at 9 o'clock this morning. They're calling the date. That's going to be okay. That's an easy thing to do. And then if you're going to disperse nuisance animals or on High Street where Scott was talking about, you can call and say, I'm going to shoot those buzzers. Shoot at. You can't kill them because they're probably protected. But you can notify that so that police officers, if they get calls, then they can say, we notified your blanks.
We need a wordsmith, Mr. Mance.
As long as it's whatever Doug came up with, that would be better.
I mean, we need that right into it.
Jeremy.
You guys finish that. I got something on C.
So. This pre-notification called in for discharge blanks. Where do they call?
Blank rounds cannot be fired until the town is notified of when and where they are going to be used.
There you go.
Call
Dispatch.
I would put in there personally, call Pike County Dispatch.
It's the town's notified. I don't care how they notify the town. They can call dispatch. You have to remember, dispatch is a busy place sometimes, and they don't need to be called for that stuff.
Well, they ought to be able to call Ruth.
Ruth's not always there. It was
Right.
mentioning why I was.
I think they can use any choice that they want to notify the town. It gives them a lot of options.
Yeah, that's agreeable.
Could you just add to the end of mine that says, are not restricted following notification to the town?
That might be cleaner.
Whatever works, it needs the same thing.
Yeah.
A few less words. Lawyers just get paid by words.
Are not restricted following notification to the town.
That sounds good. Perfect.
All right, Jeremy.
So under C, after say firearm practice, is that sighting that you're wanting to put in there? Like sighting in a rifle? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, and spelling's not my strongest suit, but I think it's SIGHTING.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe a correction of spelling.
You could be sitting while you're saying.
Well, yeah. I was wondering, I read it about 4 times to figure out if that's what we were trying to say, so.
We were probably going to the podium, Alan.
That's terrible.
No spell check.
Don't tell my mother I.
She's probably watching.
Yeah. So I think we finally got a hammer.
I think so. And we have
Have you made a motion?
Yes.
we have a motion and a second on the floor, but now that we've had this discussion, we need to possibly motion with the amendment or as changes.
Okay, I'd like to change my motion to approve ordinance number 833 with the added amendments to number 3 regarding the blank round
And the spelling correction.
and the spelling correction.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome, Bill.
You need a second.
So that's good. Second.
So that goes away.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay,
Vote.
we're taking bills.
Yep. With the changes.
With the changes.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
How quick will you have a copy available for people wanting one? Couple of days. All right, straight out of our mouth, a couple of days.
And I welcome you to leave.
Here until Thursday.
Thank you, Juan.
Thanks, guys. See you.
You betcha.
Did you see that, Officer Gill? Gill, did you see that? You didn't see a thing, did you?
Economic development there.
No, I haven't been able to get it updated, but I have had tomorrow.
Oh.
Because I asked Wham about, do you guys have any, I've been asking around the state, what do other people do, or, because I guess Wham's having or one of the small business, I can't remember, one of the organizations is having a training program on economic development, and so I used that as an opportunity to ask, well, what are you teaching people about how to measure whether their ED is their economic development tasks are working? How do you measure success? And I got kind of a dumb, well, we don't know. So it's not something people are really thinking about. So I think I'm gonna keep working on some outside the business council and see what, and WHAM, and see if we can, maybe there's some other metrics we can collect. So I don't have an update on my charts, but I'm glad Merlin's doing some inventory work. That's really cool.
I agree with you. It is really cool, but just hearing his little report, it's kind of scary to hear those numbers, because you wouldn't, in your inception or normal routine thought, think that number might be that lofty.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look at the number of commercial and business accounts that we have in the, electrical and water, sewer, whatever. There's like significant number of them there. Is everybody bailing out now?
Yeah, there was a pretty good mass exodus, yeah. Well,
Nobody wants to hear property insurance, huh?
Oh, yeah, Will is still here. Will didn't bail, he waited.
I'm still here, yeah.
Baby trooper.
Unfinished business number 5, Councilman Britz just kind of spoke to that. There's, what it is trying to figure out a tangible way to measure economic health and development within Platte County. And he said he's not had a chance to give a whole lot of real meaningful work towards a earth-shattering update for us. So if you're good with that topic, Bill, we'll move on to 6.
Yes.
Which is the agreement with the Fire District 1F.
So Mayor, after our last workshop with Curtis Walter of the Fire District, I went in and made the changes that were discussed during that workshop. I spoke with our mechanic about tracking his time on the district fire trucks so that we can charge the district for that time. So I made all of the changes discussed during that workshop. I gave a copy to Curtis Walter. He looked at it. He felt that the district was good with these changes. So they meet tomorrow night. But if we could approve tonight, then they'll take our approved agreement to their meeting tomorrow. My only question and possible request is, this is a year-to-year agreement, and it's already November. It takes so long to get these, so I'd like to see if we could do it, at least 2 years, kind of like we discussed with the ambulance. It's just really hard and with doing a year-to-year to get everybody on board, make any changes, and,
A 2-year interval will get you your council potential changes.
But that's my request. I do feel that the fire district was good with this, the way I talked to Curtis on Friday, and he was like, go ahead and take it to the council, get approved, and let us know. But that's my request. I did not talk to him about that. It just takes so long to get these approved, and we're a quarter through the budget year.
Well, we could do it for 2 years, and if they have heartburn with it, they'll kick it back to us, right? I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained, as long as it's agreeable with the council to go for a 24-month renewal as opposed to a 12.
Yeah, like you said, it just takes too long.
Yeah.
2 years damn near up. I agree with something. I agree with that 2 year.
We'll make a motion to that effect on the District 1 contract for with a 2-year inclusion.
No, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion will carry.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. Item number 1, property insurance renewal. Are you still awake, Will?
That's me. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
Thank you for letting me come.
I don't know, did you save us any money? You might not be welcome.
No.
Halloween's over, break them off.
Your policy is set to renew on December 23rd. We had talked to other carriers again this year, and we were shut down completely.
Is it the whole hail thing still?
Well, a major snowstorm did not help us.
Yeah.
That didn't help us at all for structures in southeast Wyoming. Just added to the pile of wind and hail damages.
So, Will, did we have claims from the snowstorm?
Yes, on the building we just added to the policy this last year, fire department.
Oh, yes, okay.
So we have to put a new roof on that.
Yeah, okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that one hurt. Do you remember what that check? I don't remember where we were at on that one. I can't remember. Brand new roof, and we have to replace it. Is it ripped or not? So we've got it sealed back up, trying to get metal and trying to get people, and everything else is same problem as we're having as everybody else. You can't get it. So we've got it sealed so it's not going to leak over the winter. We've got it scheduled as soon as we can to get them up there. So that was an addition to the policy. We've added some new vehicles, 2 new trash trucks, a new vacuum truck. I think that's it. Those are the changes that have been made.
Our burn.
Pardon?
Our burn.
I don't think we bought it yet.
We didn't get that burn yet.
No, we haven't bought it yet.
It's budgeted, but I don't think it's been acquired yet.
I got you.
So those are the changes you're seeing in the rates as far as the increase. Yes, I would love to see other carriers come in and try to quote it or give us a shot, but insurance in the front range all the way from basically Buffalo to into New Mexico is terrible along the front range. Trying to get somebody else to write it. And we just aren't getting new insurance companies coming into the state to quote it. To give us a quote.
So did it go up?
Did
it go up?
It went up a little bit, but the only ways it went up was just with the additions that we've added, and then the values increased.
Like the 2 trash trucks, is that what you're talking about?
The 2 trash trucks, the fire building, and the back truck. And then all the police cars that we swapped out.
Well, yeah. What was as a percentage, what was the increase?
In the building values or in the premium?
The premium.
The premium, it's hard to say just because we did so many additions, but they're taking about a 5% increase. I don't think Travelers took quite that on this one. Yeah. Just most of it was due to increase in value of the buildings.
But 5 is not bad.
No.
Got the banker sitting back there going, no, it's not.
Yeah. The increase in the buildings is probably the biggest hit. In that increase. We're just seeing extreme building costs. We've gone on a house right now. We're basing our rates at $250 a square foot. 2 years ago, we were at $150 a square foot. And I don't even know if you could get one built right now. God don't burn anything down.
Well, we need a motion, correct, to renew or otherwise, whatever the will of the council is.
We'll make a motion to approve the commercial insurance policy from December 23rd, 2021 to December 23rd, 2022. The premium of $44,174.
Second?
That's the total.
That's not,
68.
Sorry.
I already said.
I cut that quick.
Even second.
Yeah. Okay.
You gotta read the whole thing, sorry.
68,124.
Okay, there we go. I tried. Sorry, public.
I second that motion.
What, the low amount or the high?
Addition of 20,000.
I second the lower one.
Liability only.
We have
Hey.
LGL.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion will carry.
So with that, if you just notified Candy you made all that extra, I'd go out and shoot some blanks.
Just let them have to notify. Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Sticking around.
New business item number 2 is work order 2-2021 with Josh Morris of TO Engineering.
Good evening. So the work order in front of you, this one is for seal coat and mark project. So every 4 years, YDOT does seal coats. The way they do it is they divide the state into quarters. You guys are the southeast quarter. So every 4 years, they do a grant to do seal coat, which they just put emulsified asphalt down on the asphalt to help maintain it, and then they update the markings. It is a group project, so the way it works is YDOT has you guys work with your consultant to come up with a set of plans and specifications. YDOT then takes it, they put together a bid package, bid it out using the whole quarter of the state. So I think you guys are with, you're with Laramie, you're with Dixon, Torrington. I don't know how far
$100,000 in a quarter. The idea being they give it to one contractor and get a lower rate on the work. So what I've presented is the scope of work for us to complete the design. Bidding, we don't really bid it. White Dot does, but we still have to be there. The bids, give a recommendation to you guys, award the contract. White Dot comes in, they put all the bids together, but at the end of the day, it's still your project to award and your contract. And then we do the construction part of the project, and then close out. And so the project is a 90% grant with White Dot. It's putting 90, you guys putting 10. And the project for you guys would include the way it's new and everything else is alone because the apron has actually fallen to such disregard doesn't support so that's all the work.
Say that again. The rest of it.
Yep, so it's a 90-10 grant from White Dot. So I think what we estimated, actually stay right there, and we did a cost estimate. They were thinking it's about $180,000. Who knows what they're going to do. But especially in this environment we're in right now. Last year we did not see a big increase in this specific item because, well, oil prices are up. So let's throw it out. So yeah, you guys potentially $19,000 would be your 10% match if we.
You didn't try to sneak anything sneaky in here, did you?
Design, construction admin.
I just got to rib you a little bit, Josh.
That's all right. I deserve it.
Coffee for a year.
Well, I'd make the motion, but I already tried once to save $20,000. I'll let you read it right.
I move that we accept the, I guess it'd be the scope of work or the work order.
It's work order.
Work order, 2021-02, seal coat project. Did I get it correctly?
Second. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion will carry.
Who seconded?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is the procurement policy.
So Mayor, we, Tabitha and I worked with the auditors and we came up with this procurement policy. What it is outlining when we have a purchase, when the department heads, the employees need to, that they can just do it on their own as long as they're within budget. And small purchases when they need to let me know. And then when we go to have to bid it out and competitively, advertise and bid it out. And then it also has a non-competitive proposal for like a single source, public emergency, that sort of thing. So this is just a policy that we should have had in place years ago. And
How had you been doing it?
pretty much following this exact thing, except we'd go to bid after 25,000, but state statute has it at 35,000. So we were pretty much following this same. The department heads and stuff let me know if they have a large expenditure. So
Sure. Yeah.
Tabitha and I check the budget and make sure that they have enough money, and we work with them on all of that. So this is just a written and then approved by council policy.
So the motion would be that we just adopt this written policy, correct?
Yes.
Not 3 readings, just one action.
Make a motion to adopt the procurement, I'm tired, policy. The town of Wheatland.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I told Candy that I didn't understand the fixed asset purchase section because it doesn't really comport with cash basis accounting. For example, if you adopt the federal acquisition regulations that are specified under 2 CFR, it says depreciation method number 8. Well, we don't have a depreciation method because we expense it. So, I mean, we don't capitalize property or equipment. We just buy it. I mean, I can see purchases that are over 30,000 that you keep a good record using some of the data that they want collected or is recommended collected in the federal regulations. And that's good. It's good to have a log. And then I'd also wonder for Candy, is there an alternate if the clerk treasurer is not available? Like your last sentence, all completed requisitions must be signed by the clerk treasurer. But what if you're not there?
Does the deputy follow
Who's the alternate?
Well, and I think something like that is after, is that our vouchers are, so even if I'm not here, I'd sign them when I got back. But I guess that we could put, for designee or
The deputy clerk.
Yep. Because all completed requisitions is meaning our vouchers, isn't it, Tabitha? So I have to sign those anyway.
Once, if we adopt this, if you want to make changes to it, does it have to come back to the council or can we just modify it at will?
Attorney Weaver, I don't know the answer to that.
I think if the council adopts it, I think you can't just at will change it. The clerk treasurer couldn't change it at will. I think it'd have to be approved by the council. It's my understanding, at least from Candy, the auditors were the ones
Yes.
pushing this. And
No, I understand, but it seems kind of odd that the auditors would ask you to capitalize equipment on cash basis, but I mean, you're basically just collecting a log on anything that's over 30,000.
yeah, and I don't think they mean it like generally accepted accounting principles for that regulation. I think it's more that for the federal grants, Councilman Britz, and it's specific for that purpose.
I mean, there's nothing here that's going to kill us.
No.
That's for sure. It's way better than having nothing. That's for sure. It really all makes sense.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to announcements, the next regularly scheduled monthly council meeting, which will not be as well attended, will be December 13th at 7 p.m. right here.
Pick something controversial. Keep it rolling. Or not.
Thanks.
And do we have a reason to go into executive session? Okay.
If you move in, it'll be for litigation and personnel issues. 2 issues.
So moved.
Second.
We're inviting in Josh Morris.
Okay. So,
Wait a minute.
All in favor?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor to enter into executive session, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion will carry. I'll give you guys a few minutes to go out. If the council, you need to stretch your legs for a minute, go for it.